While at Rick's Institute in Liberia, I had the amazing experience of teaching alongside Mr. Newville in the 5th grade. I was nervous because the oldest grade I had previously worked with was 2nd grade, and I had no idea what to expect. I always thought I wanted to teach 1st or 2nd grade, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed teaching 5th grade. The students in my 5th grade class were incredible and inspired me every day. They were kind, hardworking, and very eager to learn. Each day, I would come into the classroom and the students would greet me enthusiastically and be excited for what we were going to do that day. They especially loved when I read aloud to them because I don't think they got to do that very often. Once my students figured out that I would read to them every day, they started bringing me books from home that they wanted me to read to them. My student Mark was the first one to do this, and I was so flattered when he gave me a book right after chapel and asked me to read it to the class. Soon after that, I would get multiple books daily from different students. Some of my favorite lessons stemmed from these read-alouds, and they brought out many teachable moments. One story I read to them that they loved particularly was a South African folktale from a book of folktales from around the world. They related to this story more than others, but also enjoyed hearing stories from other countries. The students enjoyed this book so much that I left it for them when I left, and I hope that they will continue to read and learn from it. One thing I learned from this experience is the importance of teaching children to think critically and creatively. Most of the students in my class had never been taught to do that. They were used to memorizing facts from a textbook and spitting them back out for a test. I tried to do a lot of creative writing with my students. They had never done that before, so at times it was frustrating because it felt like I was moving backwards instead of forwards. Even when I was discouraged, my students and the smiles on their faces made everything worth it. Another thing I learned was the importance of getting students active and engaged in their learning. They loved to play games like I Have, Who Has, and using circle and tree charts to help learn the parts of speech. These games and interactive activities were new and exciting for the students. They were used to learning grammar from a textbook, not applying it to their own writing or looking for parts of speech in picture books. One of my favorite classes was when I took students to the library to have them look at books and have silent reading time. The trip did not go as planned because my cooperating teacher sent all 35 students to the library right after recess instead of me taking them in smaller groups, but it worked out well. I introduced the idea of drop everything and read and showed the students some of my favorite books. One thing that surprised me was that most of my 5th graders had never read a chapter book before. It wasn't that they weren't capable of reading chapter books, they just hadn't been exposed to them. This made me sad because the library at Rick's has many amazing chapter books. One of the students, Vince, picked out Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and liked it so much that he checked it out to finish it at home. Moments like Vince checking out a chapter book from the library to read were what made the hard times easier. Some of my fondest memories at Rick's were the times I spent talking with my students outside of the classroom. My student Austin would walk me back to the guest house after school, and we talked about his family, his hopes, and his dreams. He was also very interested in my life, and I loved hearing my students' stories and getting to share mine with them. Another student, Thomas, would come by to visit and show me his magic tricks or bring some friends and play soccer. Since Thomas lived on campus, I got to spend a lot of time with him outside of the classroom, and he constantly amazed me with his thirst for knowledge and easygoing nature. This year was his first year at any school, and he was doing very well in school and was not behind. The relationships that I formed with my students and my cooperating teacher will last a lifetime. Since returning home, I've gotten phone calls from students telling me they miss me and asking me when I am coming back. Knowing that I had an impact on their lives, even a small one, is incredible and reinforces my desire to be a teacher. I will always remember the 5th grade class at Rick's Institute, and they will always have a special place in my heart.